Once upon a time, two friends joined forces to bring you the best in horror entertainment. Brian from the north, Tim from the south, each bringing their own unique perspective to the horror community. Movie reviews, Blu-ray releases, beer pairings, games, and more. Welcome to your new home for horror. This is Civil Gore.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode 128 of the Civil Gore podcast. I am your host, Tim.
And this is Brian. And we have a great show today because, one, we're talking about one of our both, I think I can kind of say, one of our both favorite films from 2019. And we have a great interview of a director, Maggie Levin, that is going to direct the February installment on Hulu's series, Blumhouse's Into the Dark, which is really cool because we're both fans of that series. Even though we haven't seen all of them, the ones we saw, we loved, so this will be really cool. And she's giving us a great interview, so we'll have that coming up. But I guess yeah, so we have a good show, and I think this is, again, one of the benefits to making our format that slight change where you get the dismemberment all in one little bonus episode rather than in the episode, because it gave us plenty of time to have all this content tonight.
Yeah. Let's just, let's the interviews breathe a little more. We're not like locked in trying to get it all done in 15 minutes. So now we'll see how the dismemberment episode actually turns out.
Right. Yeah. It could be hated, and then we'll have to put it back in. But
yeah, I don't know, but we'll see. We'll figure it out. So let's get right into it, Brian. This is our first jump. All right, Brian, so what did you see this week? I didn't get a chance to watch a lot of horror, but I do got a couple things to talk about.
Yeah, I didn't get too much. There was just a lot of I was trying to do a lot of actually prep work for the podcast, and behind the scenes stuff, like setting up our future rundowns and kind of researching some other stuff on our voicemail line we want to get set up in our store and some background stuff. But I did get to watch something today that debuted on Netflix. I don't know if you saw this, Tim. It's called What Did Jack Do?
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, so this debuted. I haven't heard of this until today. It is a David Lynch short film where it's basically David Lynch interviewing a monkey who's wearing a suit that may or may not have committed a murder.
Are you kidding me?
I am not kidding you. This has got to be the most David Lynchiest thing I've ever seen in my life. This thing looks like it came out of the furthest reaches of a nightmare out of Twin Peaks episode or something. This thing is the most... I want to watch it again because it is the most bizarre thing. But yeah, and I've heard people have seen it. They said, yeah, I've watched it a couple times. I still have no idea what the heck it's about. It's so David Lynch. I'm going to give you, without spoiling stuff, because I don't want to spoil it, because you have to see some of this for yourself. And believe me, I'm going to give you two quotes from the movie that this monkey says. And this still is like just the tip of the iceberg of what goes on in this little 17-minute short. And it's all in black and white, too. So it's got this really cool, like noir vibe to it, like those, So one time, one of the things the monkey said is, I once sliced a gator that went after a rabbit friend. Okay? And then
is the monkey actually talking?
Yes, the monkey is speaking by, it's one of those things where it's like a human mouth in place of the monkey that they superimposed in. I'm telling you, when we are done with this episode, Tim, the first thing you must do, after saving the episode, of course, is to go watch this on Netflix. It's the best.
I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah, it is one of the best 17 minutes you'll ever spend in your life. And the second quote is, they say real love is a banana, sweet with a golden hue.
I'm going to watch this tonight.
Yes.
Then I'm going to have nightmares all night.
Oh, yeah. And I am saving I am purposely not telling you some of the highlights. Those are two, minor highlights but it's that's the kind of lines that are being said. When you see, there's no other way to describe it than this is the most David Lynch thing you'll ever see in your life.
Wow.
And it's literally him interviewing a monkey. It's the most incredible thing ever made. It really is. You have got to see this.
Fantastic. How did you find this again?
It was on Twitter, and people were tweeting about it, and they were saying, oh, this is so great. You got to see this. So I'm like, all right, I'll put it on. I'll watch it before the episode because, 17 minutes, I'll be able to fit it in. I watched it right before we went on, and I'm like, oh, my God. I said, this is This is one of the greatest things I've ever seen. I mean, this literally is like one of the most fun little things to watch. It is so bizarre. I probably need to watch it like 10 more times to even get a remote handle on what the heck is going on in this thing.
I love that.
But it is, you will, I literally, if you did not like find this as one of the most entertaining things you've ever seen, I've completely misjudged you since I've known you. That's how good.
Wow.
I can guarantee you will be one of your favorite things ever.
Nice. Well, I did get a chance to add another film to my 40 Years of Terror collection, which is winding down. I think there's only like 5 movies left, Brian. So maybe 5 more episodes, I'll have this project wrapped up and I can move on to the next project, whatever that is. Probably
you can finish mine. You can
1000th.
finish my project.
Oh yeah, finish your Twilight Zone project. That'd be a good one. This was 1976, The Tenant. This is a Roman Polanski film. Starring Roman Polanski. This is considered the third of his Apartment trilogy, which started with Repulsion, and then was, of course, followed by Rosemary's Baby, and then you had this one, The Tenant. And it's based off a novel, and it's about a tenant played by Polanski who moves into this apartment, and he discovers that the previous owner of this apartment attempted to commit suicide by jumping out of the window. And she is in the hospital. He does go to see her, and she later passes away. Okay. So now he's got this apartment of this woman that committed suicide, and little strange things start happening. He notices, he looks across the apartment across the way, and he sees people just standing in their bathroom, motionless. There's a scene where he finds a hole in his wall and discovers a human tooth inside of it. Just really weird, bizarre things.
That's the weirdest glory hole I ever heard.
Yeah. His neighbors are very strange. They accuse him of making all these noises at night that he's not making. They're very sensitive to noise. There's talk about this mysterious old woman that lives upstairs that nobody ever sees, but she apparently makes all these noises, and they're mad at her for that. Very, very strange psychological thriller, like you would expect from a Polanski film. It is a very slow burn. Really, I would say this is a 2-hour movie. I'd say the first maybe hour and 20 minutes is just a slow buildup of these just kind of odd, quirky occurrences. Not really horror, just weird things. And you're not really sure where this movie's going. And then, of course, the last 30, 40 minutes is where things go completely insane. So I would highly recommend The Tenant. It's not one of those movies I could see myself watching multiple times. Just because it is such a slow burn, but it's very, very interesting from a psychological horror perspective. And it was number 88 on my list of top 1,000 horror films that I got from Letterboxd. So it was definitely highly regarded by the Letterboxd viewers. So I'd definitely recommend that one. It's on Prime right now.
What is with Roman Polanski in apartment buildings, though? Wow.
I don't know.
Did he have a bad experience in one? He had to have.
I don't know. It's
some of the stuff strange. He does with apartment buildings.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, speaking of other things, we don't really have much on the rundown for the first chop, but I did share with a friend of mine this top 20 horror novels list that came out. We covered a few of them on our 2020 preview. And I've gone ahead and made like actual calendar entries. So when these things release, I'm going to buy them as soon as they come out. I've got a list of 20 horror novels that are highly anticipated. They're coming out all the way through, I believe, the end of August. So as those come out, I'm going to try to snatch them up and read them and try to give you guys a review here on the show.
Oh, so cool.
Maybe get a little more literature in our podcast so we sound a little fancier.
Yeah, you go. I know, because it's like, well, all this movies. I mean, come on. Who cares about movies?
I had to pack up. We're obviously we're moving. We're trying to pack up stuff now so we can sell the house. And one of the things, I started packing up my office. So unfortunately, my shelves of horror are slowly dwindling away. They're getting packed up and put into storage, which is kind of sad.
Yeah.
But
with streaming, you'll be okay. But
yeah, but at the same time, I have packed up all of my Stephen King novels because I was wondering, like, does anybody keep hardcover books anymore? And I was like, I don't need these. I can get a Stephen King book on a Kindle anytime. But a lot of these are first editions, and I was like,
you can't get rid of those.
I just can't get rid of these because they,
especially you want to do your horror bookshelf in your new place. You gotta have the good meat like the Stephen King hardcovers.
Yeah, so I figured I would, instead of trying to get rid of them or anything, I'm just going to keep those. Even though it's going to be a pain in the butt to store them, I'm just going to keep them. And one of these days, I'll finish my Stephen King hardcover collection. Yeah, you can pick them up pretty cheap if you hit library sales. Is a great way to find Stephen King books because there's usually so many of them.
Yeah, just go to Steve Cohn's house because he ends up every time I go there, I end up with like a book coming back that he has extra of that's like that. But yeah, and I mean, of course, I'm not the best source to ask because I'm like Marie Kondo's like greatest nightmare, like someone who like just finds new stuff to keep rather than get rid of. So, but I do know I got to look out for you, Tim. I know you're trying to start your horror book. Why like diminish it right from the start with such like key pieces,
Yeah. Oh, speaking of which, I started that House of Psychotic Women book.
Oh, that's right.
Oh my gosh, thing is like way crazy deeper than I figured. I told you that the text was really tiny.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Like this book, I mean, each page is like a full essay. This thing is crazy how much content's in here. I'm only like on chapter 3, and I'm like, good God, I've read a whole book's worth already.
Oh my God, I gotta get this book.
Yeah, it's amazing. But the author, she goes into her life story. I mean, she's talking about these issues she had when she was a kid and living with her stepfather and her mom and her sister who was way older than she was. And you get all this, like, all the psychological stuff that she went through, and then she relates it to the horror films she was watching at the time. Some really cool stories in there and anecdotes from her childhood, but also like when she goes into a film, like she really dives into it. I mean, everything about that movie, and there's probably like 5 films she's already covered that I've never seen that I want to go out and find and watch because of the way she covered them in the book. So yeah, I would definitely recommend that book. It's really amazing. That House of Psychotic Women.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I thought it was just going to be like a kind of standard overview. Okay, here's this one, and here's this one, and here, and instead she just incorporated her whole like biography into this. It's kind of cool.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I really need to start reading more, just period. And that sounds like maybe that'll good start. I mean, I did, like, it's funny. I get into these things where I'm like, I'm going to read, and I buy all these books, and I, like, read one of the 12 books that I buy. But, like, the latest one I read was the Star Wars one, like, Resistance Reborn, because that led into Rise of Skywalker. But, I need to start reading these horror books that I have, because I have some really good ones. Like, of course, the Halloween one that we both have. And there's that one Paul sent me. I want to finish reading, and just stuff like that. And I want to get that one. What was it, Lady in the Lake? It's called the one with the right about the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah,
actress, right.
I haven't read that one yet either. I tend to go in spurts. I'll not read anything for a while, and all I do is listen to podcasts or whatever, and then I'll go through this like reading binge where I'll read like 10 books in a month or two. And I don't know, it just kind of fluctuates with me. I'm trying to be a little better. Moving has definitely made me try to get through some of these physical copies of books. That way I know I don't have to, there's some books I don't necessarily want to keep in hardcover that, but I haven't read yet. So I'm not going to get rid of them until I read them, but they're not like collectible or anything. So they're not ones I'm going to hang on to. So yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get it, Tim.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there.
Even though I want to be the bad influence and keep making you buy stuff, but
Oh my gosh, yeah. Moving will definitely tell you have way too much stuff, as you well know, Brian, since you've been through it recently.
Oh my God, yeah, and I still managed to keep the majority of the stuff with me, much to Julie's chagrin. But I do have a storage facility, so that does help a lot. So look at this. We're jumping right into the movie now. This is so weird. I'm like about to start looking to see what Blu-rays are coming our way, but we don't have that right now.
Well, we do have an interview though.
We do. That's even more exciting though. I
guess this is a good segue into our interview segment with Maggie Levin, who, of course, as we mentioned earlier, is doing the My Valentine movie for Hulu's Into the Dark series. Cannot wait for this, and it was a fantastic interview. She is a fantastic interviewee.
Yeah, she was awesome. Oh, we were joking afterwards that we literally we could have talked to her for another like 2 hours, and it's not just my normal rambling that could go on for 2 hours. Like it was that much fun. We were going back and forth. We had so many things that we would have loved to ask her. So we basically set up that she'll have to come back on because it was so much fun to talk to her.
All right, guys. So without further ado, our interview with Maggie Levin.
Okay, so we have a very cool guest tonight. She is the writer and the director of this February's installment of the popular Hulu series from Blumhouse's Into the Dark, entitled My Valentine. So welcome to the show, Maggie Levin.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Oh, thanks for you for coming on. This is exciting because we're both fans of that series, and so it'll
It's
be
such a
even
fun series, right?
Oh,
It's such a
yeah.
blast.
I mean, I've only got to see a handful of them, but like this one, I'm super excited for. Which will, of course, we'll kind of get into that specific thing,
Mhm.
specific project in a little bit. But I guess to start off, why don't you tell the listeners about yourself? Kind of like your origin story, so to speak.
Absolutely. Well, I am originally from New York, New York, and
Woo! Sorry, I'm
also
from New York. So.
hell yeah, New Yorkers. And I kind of grew up split between New York City and Woodstock, New York, and also on tour with my father, who is a bass guitarist for various pop and rock artists of note and some of less note. My mother is also a ballerina, so I kind of grew up in this like very artistic, very like creative environment. And I picked the one thing that neither of my parents did, which was theater, and really kind of was set on this theater like playwriting and directing. And my goal from when I was very small was to run a theater company, which as soon as I kind of got to doing that right out of college and theater conservatory, I did that for about a year and a half, and I was like, wow, I'm going to be broke and no one's ever going to see my work for my entire life. So I kind of, through a roundabout route, made my way to Los Angeles and started directing music videos and digital series and kind of worked my way up to this moment in time, which is my first feature-length project. And I would say that both as a person and as an artist, my style is what I like to call disco witch. It's kind of a neon, kinetic, very fun, very music involved. And of course, I like to do all kinds of stuff and look forward to, like, throughout the course of my career, kind of branching out. But I would say that consistently, if you look at my body of work, we've got like grounded performances, but kind of wild colors and a lot of like flashy movement and music.
Yeah, I did notice that. It had a very cool, like, almost like this, like a rave kind of thing, like a lot of like really cool colors and stuff going on for
Thank
the
you.
projects. It was really
Yes.
kind of cool. It really makes a good like visual presentation.
Thank you. I like what I like, and there have been a couple of projects where I've gotten to sort of play in other color palettes, and I'm definitely would like to make sure that I keep myself well-rounded. But yeah, My Valentine is a direct example of like right in the pocket of my personal aesthetic and kind of where my other projects have kind of led me to. I did actually do a rave project, which was a bunch of vampires massacring ravers.
I actually watched that tonight. I watched it on my Oculus
Bane
Quest.
360. Oh.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
Oh my
I had to
God,
do it
thank you so
I had to do it the cheap way. I had to like do it with a 360 scroll, but Tim got the cool stuff because my Oculus Quest is on back order. I didn't get it yet.
Oh,
yeah, it was super cool. I
man.
really enjoyed it. So yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So speaking of your style, what are who or what are some of your inspirations, both from the music side and from the horror side?
Oh, that is such a great question. Let me think. I have to say that I was a big scaredy cat as a kid and through my early adulthood. So I am like new to the horror community and the horror genre in general, and I am like devouring it whole. Like I went to Fantastic Fest, and I'm suddenly becoming immersed in the horror community and like understanding what's out there in terms of like the breadth of horror. It's incredible. So I will get back to your question, I promise. I just wanted to say, like, I have a new hobby now, which is just watching horror movies on a loop, and it's great.
That's
we can
awesome.
relate to that just a little bit,
But I
I think.
oh yeah, I would imagine I'm talking to the right people about
Yeah.
that. Yeah. I love Karin Kusama. The Invitation and Jennifer's Body are two of my favorite movies of all time. I really love, I think, it's easy to look at my work and see the direct influence of Edgar Wright. And Prince is my favorite musical artist of all time, and his kind of aesthetic and sort of bold, I would say, like, really sexualized stuff. I like things that are sexy. And I also am finding that the intersection of sexiness and like gory bloodiness, like those two things pair really well together, which I think,
yeah.
that has to come from a childhood love of vampires and all things vampire, including I don't know. I mean, the cool answer is like Let the Right One In and A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. But then, like, I love Interview so much.
Yeah, I mean it's such a good subgenre. So
and Lost Boys. Oh my God, I'm actually, I think I'm going to be talking to Switchblade Sisters about Lost Boys in a couple weeks, and I'm super pumped for that because I love that movie. Yeah, but then, like, big influences also are Velvet Goldmine, the entire glam rock genre, and then I guess that about covers it. There's more, but let's
Yeah, we kind of
just
gave you like a
right
broad
along.
that could go on for a lot. I know, especially for us too. Like, what kind of horror do you like?
You're like, what movies do you like? Yeah, everything.
Yeah, no, that question's coming up. We're gonna just give you like 20 minutes to just listen. No, just but yeah. So
just riff on how much I love movies.
Yeah. So, did you have any particular obstacles or challenges along the way to where you got now? And if so, how do you feel you overcame them?
Well, absolutely. I think the trickiest thing about trying to be a professional filmmaker, or really a professional creative of any kind, is how do you stay alive? How do you keep the lights on? Because projects that pay a living wage are few and far between, and everyone, I think, hits that one or multiple times where you go like, yo, am I kidding myself? And should I like move back to Woodstock and become an art teacher? So I've definitely like hit that road bump quite a few times. Even when I was like, even as recently, beginning of last year, I was, just I had done a couple of series. I had begun to do sort of small level commercial work, and I had done a bunch of my own original material and shorts, and had kind of done a little bit of the kind of smaller festivals, and was just writing, cracking away at it. And, it really felt like when you can't see your own journey, when you can't lens out from it enough, it just kind of feels like you're running into the same walls. And certainly, like, I still have one client from the same day job that I've had for almost 8 years now. I have a little side hustle as a fit model, and that's what I done to stay afloat for this whole time. So yeah, I would say that the biggest obstacle is just like kind of keeping on when it seems like nothing's maybe going to give. But I will say, in connection to that, because there is a kind of there are two things on the internet that I think have a dark side and a light side. There's like the just don't give up, follow your dreams kind of mantra that happens all over the internet, which I think is true. I also think that it is important that your dreams do not kill you. Like, I think it's a very like beautiful, very American sentiment of like, every time you fall down, you just got to get back up. You just got to keep going. And that is true to an extent, but not to the point where you're sacrificing your own well-being too much. There's a degree to which you got to go like, okay, take a breather, put some money in your bank account, and be able to do the next thing. Yeah. I hope that's not
No.
a buzzkill.
No, that makes sense.
That's
It's funny
great.
because we had interviewed someone, and she had said basically to finish her film, she like to make sure that it could be done. She did her own craft service. She like cooked for weeks
Yeah.
to feed her crew before she did it because she wanted to get this film done in a way that she could
Yeah.
afford. So and I hear this story all the time. So it's pretty great that I think that probably the best thing is that you have that grasp on it and you found a way to do it, which is awesome.
Yeah. Well, and you get little markers along the way. It never like made it to the top or anything like that, but I've certainly gotten to a point where like I can support myself doing what I love to do, and that's like a relatively new and thrilling chapter in my life. And that whole way along, when I was really despairing, I think these little signs would show up where somebody would read a script, somebody, a renowned actor or director or someone would read a piece of mine and go like, hey, this is really good, you should keep going. So those breadcrumbs will tell you if you should really keep on the road.
So Maggie, I've got to ask you about this because Brian and I are huge Archie fans. We saw this on your website that you wrote an officially licensed text-based series on the Yarn app entitled Something Wicked in Riverdale. So I have to hear about what this is all about.
Absolutely, I did a bunch of projects with Yarn, who I love. They do these kind of voyeuristic, you can drop in on people's text message conversations. Some of them have video components. Some of them even have like third person, like fun spy video. Most of them are scary, horror related. And then a lot of them are like involving characters from popular culture. They have a lot of like licensed deals. Yarn first began collaborating with Archie Comics. I was already working with them on a series called Swipe Right and Die, which is like a completely original series that's up there right now. And they were like, hey, do you want to take a run at anything in the Archie world, and particularly from the Archie horror world? And there were these Sabrina and Jughead crossover. They came in by accident, and Sabrina has to come in and help everybody out. And then at the end, she wipes everybody's memories, but she's got a crush on Jughead. Very complicated, very, teen soap. All of the wonderful things about where we are in the contemporary Archie universe. So fun to play in that world. My God.
Yeah, that's a fantastic comic. The Afterlife with Archie series and all those spinoffs are just wonderful. Yeah, I love those.
Oh, it's the best. Yeah, and Yarn really had a cool sort of free license to mix and match storylines, and as long as it was true to the basic characteristics of all of their folks and the plots, you're allowed to kind of run free if you're a writer that they trust, which is really fun.
That's cool.
That's really good. And actually, I have to tell you this. I don't think I've even told Tim this to this date, but my best friend and I back in high school, we were huge Archie fans, and we actually did our own like Archie like sort of fan fiction comics where
Amazing.
Yeah, I wish I could still find some of these things because it was like basically and I swear I know this happened in like the Archie lexicon officially, but we literally did. It was called The Death of Archie, and we did a 12. We had a plan where it was basically like very adult oriented Archie, where like I remember that I'm trying to remember some of the things, but like one of them was that like they were on a class trip and Mr. Weatherby got shot because he was trying to save them. It was, I swear to God,
like an episode of Riverdale.
Yeah, and this was years before. I mean, we joke about it now and we say we were so ahead of our time. Look at this. Because back then,
Archie.
Really, and I swear I gotta dig this up because I'm sure it's somewhere in a box somewhere. Some of these things, and it was you do, and then maybe I could send it to you, and then you could use it for your future things. But yeah, I'm not trying to steal your thunder. It just brought up memories. I'm like, oh my God, that's like. Yeah,
that's awesome.
I mean, I loved all those comics as a kid. You know, that was like in the grocery store at the like the bottom shelf underneath the adults magazines, like Us Weekly or whatever. There's like a pile of Archie or like Betty and Veronica Double Digest, and I was just like my whole allowance on those like stacks of them. So.
Yeah, and that was like when I was sick at home. My parents would come home with a couple of Archie digests for me, like I was sick in bed.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, those comics are soul food, It's really like they're also now not so much. Now they're kind of like going more into the Riverdale and again into the horror territory, but
Yeah. Okay, now that we've probably made this an Archie podcast,
Yes,
I
we
love
probably
it.
should we should get on.
Anytime.
Yeah, right. That'll be our side podcast. We'll do a 3-person podcast. We'll just talk all things Archie. But
I love it.
so here's a question. It's that Tim and I we actually just discussed this on our show, kind of what's been going on, and so this is kind of like a cool we kind of we have this funny segment that we kind of do sometimes. We'll get on a soapbox, so to speak, but
Great.
it's kind of more tongue in cheek. But really, what it is so basically, lately, of course, social media is a great tool for promoting yourself and projects, and it's become like this necessary evil. But of course, if you look out there, especially in some certain fandom communities, there is this toxic environment. Have you had any? Yeah, well, no, we were just gonna. It's not that bad, but we were gonna just ask you if you had any struggles using it, and if you had any, how did you combat any negativity that you might have faced trying to do something in there?
Yeah, I mean that's a new territory for me. Like I've never, I've sort of existed in this beautiful little protected bubble of like no one gives a crap about what I'm doing. So my social space has always been incredibly positive. I think that is, to put it delicately, changing. But I think that is kind of what happens is like when you start to move into spaces where people are looking at your work and, on the internet, we like to go with our first gut reaction, I think.
Yeah.
We're very reactive culture, particularly on Twitter, which I have found Twitter to be a beautifully helpful, beneficial place. It was the origin of where my podcast was, and I've met a lot of incredible people through Twitter. I think I met you guys through Twitter.
Yeah, it was one of our listeners.
Yeah.
Kind of facilitated. It was awesome.
Amazing. But yeah, it also it goes the other way too. And I think my first sort of bout of internet related controversy was a few years ago, and it, to speak more abstractly, the feeling of being kind of, and this is in reference to something that happened years and years ago. It was like a misunderstanding. I know I'm being vague at the moment, but
No.
I've talked to a lot of friends about this recently. I'm really good friends with a wonderful actress and sort of openly an internet person, Anna Akana. So she's had this experience a number of times, and so have my producers on this movie, Scott Derrickson and C. Robert Cargill. There are these issues that come up, whether it's in relationship to your work or some comment you made, some this, some that, where there becomes like a Twitter dog pile about it. And it feels like having battery acid poured over your head.
Oh no.
Because it's like there's really nothing that you can do about it other than just like go like, okay, I'm here, I'm listening, and just listen and truly not engage. I think that's the strategy. I don't know. Maybe talk to me 2 years from now and I will have deleted my Twitter and made a big mess.
I hope not, but because I like following your tweets. They're pretty good.
Thank you.
And that we kind of take that same approach too. It's like we try not to get involved in these things, and it's like, well, we're careful. Like Tim has a great strategy. I'll let him say after. He's got a good philosophy on it, but. Yeah, but just to know too, we got your back. Don't worry. We see anyone piling up on you, we're in there. Don't worry.
That's darling of you to say. But I don't worry about me. I'm a big girl, and like I think that's the thing is like when you make stuff and you put yourself out there, you got to be prepared, just as prepared for the world to hate you and as to love you. That's the deal. It's like some people are going to be down for it, and some people are going to be like, hey, I don't like that you exist. And you go, okay, well, I guess that's your opinion, man.
Yeah. Yeah, what Brian was referring to is I always say I never post anything that I wouldn't tell to somebody's face or in front of my mom or whatever. So yeah, just trying to be kind on social media.
Absolutely.
So I don't know why that's so hard.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, like I think it's that it just goes to the kind of like social media goes to the primal centers of our brain where it's just like, you don't have to read anybody's body cues. You don't have to try to like adjust to the atmosphere in the room. You just see a thing and you're like, okay, here's my first response.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely, like, having been involved in a couple of, or like seeing friends get dogpiled and all of that, like I've really has made me think about what I put out there in a way different way than when I first got a Twitter back in the back in ancient history, beginning of Twitter times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Maggie, I know you're fairly new to horror. So
Yes.
my next question was, what do you think about the current horror landscape? But if you can't answer that question in detail, what would you like to see in horror going forward? What do you think about mainstream horror these days, indie horror?
Well, I'll tell you what I see, and to be quite honest, not as well versed as I want to be, but I'm quickly getting an education in it. But I think that horror is such a special community, such a special place to take risks. That's something that I found with Into the Dark in particular, is like, they're making a different movie every month, wildly different, we've got like the episode before mine is like a queer slasher, and the episode before that is this like really bizarre, twisted take on Thanksgiving, and like,
Oh yeah, that one was funny.
Pilgrim is a riot. I think
that's a
great
movie. Yeah, that was insane.
It's so nuts in the best way, and like, I've seen how what falls under horror can span from something really really artful and gorgeous and like award garnering to like really campy and over the top and just like blood all over the place and all of these things. What I love about the horror community is all of these things are just as valid and exciting to a horror fan, at least in my experience. So I don't know, to me it's a great time to be a filmmaker in this genre. It's an area where risk taking has always been encouraged, and it seems to be like also like I'm arriving here at a turning point where it's becoming kind of a more respected area of filmmaking. I think, because of Get Out and Hereditary and Midsummer and things like that, there are more lauded horror filmmakers than ever before, which I think is spectacular. And then, you look at somebody like my producer, Scott Derrickson, who made Exorcism of Emily Rose and Sinister, and then moved on to doing big Marvel films and stuff like that. So, there's really amazing opportunities for people in this area, which I think is really cool.
See, I think you sold yourself short because you seem to nail it. I think that's exactly that, because that's how a lot of us feel. I know being in the, being like talking amongst other horror fans, I think that's what you said is what we hear a lot lately, and it's a very good community. Tim and I happen to be in a lot of fandom communities. We tend to be in, with Star Wars and Marvel and theme parks, and some of it gets so crazy and so toxic, but horror seems to like. I don't know. It's
y'all love each other. It's so great.
Yeah, it really is. It's such an encompassing, and especially if you go to these conventions, you just run into people that all they want to do is just talk with you about horror and tell them how they got into it, and how when it wasn't so, let's say, for lack of a better word, socially acceptable to be a horror fan, how they could always relate to horror and horror fans, and now it just seems even more. And it's just, and you figure a community that at one point was kind of maybe considered as like the side thing, like has no qualms at welcoming anybody who's new into it, which some communities may do because they don't, you weren't a horror fan. I was a horror fan before you even were born, kind of thing. You don't get that, and it's like, and it's just so exciting to see, people that are discovering it now just jump right in, and it really is awesome. So I think you nailed it perfectly. You couldn't have said it, I don't think, any better.
Well,
in fact.
and that really comes direct from the heart, because as soon as I've been making genre things, mostly sci-fi, and then Vane I think counts as horror. I feel like vampires tend to be a little bit of the bastard stepchild of horror, but I really have found that, particularly in making this movie for Blumhouse and all of the people that I've met along the way, and this whole exploration that I've done into this genre, just the horror community has really open arms, and the horror community has also been like incredibly diverse in its taste, and the people that make it and the people that consume it. It's so diverse in a way that a lot of other movie making just isn't. And I think that that's really exciting, and it really I don't know, it's just a really good time to be stepping into this space. I was also going to say that I grew up going to Rocky Horror every weekend, and the same way that Rocky has always been a safe place for misfits and weirdos of all kinds, I feel like that sort of expansive, like loving acceptance from the horror community in the exact same way.
Yeah, and actually, and it's like I know you did like that. You did that Rocky Horror
the Rocky
Project
Horror
thing you
hipster
did,
show.
which it's like you know what? It was so funny when we were going through. Like I was going through on your site, and I was like, this interview could be like 2 hours. There's so many things that we want to ask you. But what we figured is, if you like your experience, we'll have to have you come on again just for
please, yeah,
for fun. But
yeah.
But we probably should get to like the big project right now that of course everyone's dying to hear about here, which is My Valentine, which of course is going to be the February installment here for Blumhouse's Into the Dark. So so basically, I know it's like there's only been a trailer right now, but so if there's anything you could tell us about it, and basically get into how you got involved with it and what was like to contribute to such a high profile series.
Well, it was I mean, it's been just a killer experience, and I mean that completely pun intended, from the get-go. Blumhouse is so cool, so filmmaker driven. The collaboration that they're doing with Hulu is like, it's just sort of exceptional in its risk taking and like I said, sort of the wide variety of things that they're not just able to, but really willing to do. What I can tell you about My Valentine is it takes place in Los Angeles in the pop music world. It is a sneaky musical. There are 4 original awesome songs in it by an artist called Dressage. The score kind of goes all with it. It kind of takes place in a music video-esque reality. So it is on this earth, and it is psychological thriller horror with some big bloody moments in it. Like really, this is so twisted, but like I was so proud when the second to last death in the movie, I guess that's not spoiling anything, but like there's one big death in the movie that is above all others the most intense. And when we screened that for some people internally, so many people looked away and went like, blah! I was like, yes,
oh, nice.
I did it.
That's what you want to see,
Yeah. But I will say that, like, we rev up to a really like over the top degree. But what it is exploring throughout the course of the movie is themes about the cycle of abuse, recovering from trauma, and the connected to my own personal journey of recovering from codependency and really like learning how to see yourself when you step outside of a really toxic relationship. Yeah. And the cast rules. Very proud of them.
Yeah. I saw one of the, I guess I ended up having our account follow her. I guess that main actress that,
Britt Baron. From Glow.
Yeah, because I was like, I recognize her, but I wasn't sure. So I was like, so I followed anyway, because I like to keep tabs on all our horror community here. So.
Well, she's genius in this film. Anna Laurie is wonderful. Benedict Samuel, who was on Walking Dead and Gotham for a while, and it's just like, boy, that guy, he plays one hell of a supervillain. He's like. Nice. He is the sweetest sweetie in person, and then like he would just click into these scenes where he's doing like full scale, like off the rails, narcissistic psychopath. And I was like, I don't know how you turn this switch on and off in yourself. Like, it's incredible to me. And he just kind of shrug and go like, yeah, I don't know, it's all in the text. I just got it. Yeah.
I know. I can't wait to see this. I think it was like a 28-second clip, and it like definitely got my horror mouth watering there.
Yay!
So.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm so glad. Well, I hope you really enjoy it. It is a fun, wild romp, and I am really grateful that I had the opportunity to make it with these people in particular. The whole team from top to bottom was just so wonderful.
Oh yeah, and we'll definitely once it's released too, we'll make sure it's a featured segment. We'll talk about it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you so much.
All right, so Maggie, one last question before we get to where everybody can find you. But what would your dream project be? That could be genre, it could be the cast, it could be whatever you want. What's your dream movie?
Oh man. I mean,
another
2-hour answer segment here. We got it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping, and I know that they're going to make a remake of Tommy someday. I would love to do that. But I'm sure that I have a feeling they're going to get to it before I can get to it. But I'm actually, one of my dream projects is hopefully the thing I'm doing next, which is this post-apocalyptic sci-fi romance thriller thing. And I'd also, oh man, I mean, I feel like I wish I had a concise answer to this, but I think I'm starting to see, as I move through my career, my fledgling career, that you got to treat every project like it's the last thing you'll ever do. So anything that I'm working on in the moment, I'm like, if this is the last movie that I ever get to make, I'm a happy camper. So I have like big goal properties and stuff, but like I'm really so happy to just be like here in this moment getting to make movies for a living. It's the coolest.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great answer. See, every time you preface it with like this, oh, I don't know the answer, you come up with like a killer answer. It's awesome.
Oh, thanks. I kind of meander my way around to the right. Thanks.
So I guess now here's the fun part though. Now here, like let all our listeners know like where they could find you. We're on social media. So, but we'll do a warning. You're not allowed to dogpile. But but let them know where they could find you, where you could see your stuff. I know like with like the Vimeo site, etc., and social media. So let everyone know where they could find all your cool stuff.
Yeah, well, if you'd like to watch my pre-existing body of work, most of it is available now on www.maggielevin.com, and I am at Maggie Levin on Twitter and Instagram, at least until further notice. And I do have a TikTok that I never use. Great.
I still don't even understand what a TikTok is, so that's okay.
I'm trying. I'm trying to keep up.
I think I don't know. I feel like that's like a teen thing. I feel like I'm so old and I don't know what that is.
I don't know, but then there's like grown up like nurses like teaching people about like vaccines on it. So I'm like, I guess I gotta figure this out. Anyway, it doesn't matter. My Instagram is probably, if you're like a film person and you're into just like mainly film based content. Although today I went off on a ramble about whether or not Mr. Peanut is evil.
I saw that. I
guess, well, the answer is absolutely, by the way.
Of course.
Definitely.
You cannot have a talking peanut with a monocle and a hat and not have him have some sinister intention.
Oh yeah, who's like literally trying to get you to eat the rest of his species. That's evil.
Yeah, like why is he better than the other peanuts? Because he wears a hat?
Right. I know, because he has arms.
Yeah.
Come on, dude. But at Maggie Levin all over the place, and I mean, if you want to dogpile me and tell me that I should go away forever, like, fine, no problem. I mean, people say the same thing. Same thing to Ryan Johnson and everybody else.
Oh, God. Or Ryan Johnson. Thank God Knives Out, because I love Knives Out, too. I mean, I was a fan of Last Jedi, but I also love Knives Out. So
Oh,
you know what? I'm
it's so
glad
great.
he's getting some like nice things now towards him.
Yeah. Well, and that's just the thing. Is like for every pile of bad, there's a pile of good.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So all right. So our listeners out there, if anyone dares to pile on bad, you better pile on a week later.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. You guys, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much.
We had such a great time. I was like, I could literally. I mean, it's not just because I'm a Long Island Jewish New Yorker, but and it's like inherently like predispositioned in my psyche to just ramble on forever. But we could like talk to you for hours because it was so much fun.
Let's do it again. Let's do it again sometime. And if you want to talk about any particular women, I'm out there sort of stomping for women in film all the time. So if you have a particular episode that is about a female directed horror movie, if you want to talk about The Babadook or American Psycho or whatever, I'm here for it. The Nightingale, I'm around.
Oh, definitely.
Oh man, absolutely, yeah.
And same goes for you. Whatever you have, no matter how big, how small you want us to help promote it, we just say the word.
You're angels. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks so much, Maggie. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
All right, Brian, that was so much fun. Whenever we do these interviews, you never really know what you're going to get. I mean, we've been very fortunate. All of our interviews have been fantastic, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So, but you never really know. You never know the personality of the person that's on the other side of the Skype session. You don't know. And Brian and I are not professional interviewers, so we're just kind of going on the fly as we go along. So it's really always kind of nerve-wracking before any interview, not knowing how it's going to turn out. And I just love when we have like these gems come up where these people are just fantastic and the conversation's lively and the questions and answers go back and forth real smoothly. I love this interview.
Yeah, and we actually should. I meant to say it during the interview. We should probably say it, though, now. Like, thanks to David. Actually, he helped us hook that up because Maggie was talking about her movie on social media, and he had said, oh, well, you should maybe go on Civil Gore podcast. And so I saw that, and I actually reached out to her, and she was so gracious enough to come on, and we set that up, and it was great. So, I mean, so thanks again, David, for that, and of course, thanks again, Maggie, for coming on, because that was awesome, and I can't wait till she comes on again, actually. It's like, and I can't wait to see this movie, because if you see some of her stuff on her website and on her Vimeo, you will see the kind of stuff you're in for this My Valentine, and especially if you saw the trailer, and it looks like it's going to be such an exceptional film. I can't wait.
All right. So, speaking of exceptional films, let's get to our main feature, which is Ready or Not. This one came out last year. Now, I am not going to go into heavy spoilers for this.
It's kind of hard to because it's such a fun movie to explore yourself. So
yeah, and it's so recent. I hate to just like spoil the whole thing.
Right.
I mean, be forewarned. We are going to give away, plot elements, loose, high level plot elements. But these are things you could probably glean from the trailer anyway.
Right, or have heard through. Just
Yeah, so
being a horror fan.
We'll give you the general synopsis. If you don't want to hear anything about this movie, obviously skip and wait till you see it. But if you haven't seen it yet and are just kind of interested, I promise we won't give away any of the major plot points or twists or anything.
Right.
All right, so Ready or Not, here we go. This was, of course, released last year, directed by Matt Betta. Oh, great, Brian! You give me some crazy.
I didn't give that. Who directed it? I couldn't. I'll change it to every direction. There will be Alan Smithy from now on, just for Tim's sake.
Sorry to Matt for this butchering of his name. Matt Bettinelli Olpin and Tyler Gillette or Gillett. I don't know. Take your pick.
I don't know because Gillette usually has the E at the end.
I know. It's like they're throwing us curveballs right.
You butchered poor Matt's name and then you fancied up Tyler's name, but I think.
Oh, okay. So starring Samara Weaving, not Margot Robbie. Samara Weaving as Grace, Adam Brody as Daniel Domas, Mark O'Brien as Alex Domas, Henry Czerny as Tony Domas. Even their last name is hard to say, Brian.
I know. I can't. I love that Tim's going to say it like 3 more times.
Oh my God. Andy McDowell as Becky. I'm not even going to say her last name.
I love her accent.
I love
by the way.
I love
her,
Andy McDowell.
Yes.
Melody Scrofano as Emily, Christian Brune as Fitch, that's 2 U's. Fitch Bradley, Nick Guadagni as Aunt Helene.
Helene, yeah, it's Helene.
Helene, she's wonderful in this.
Oh my god, she's hilarious.
She is like a really stern aunt. Elise Levesque as Charity Domas and John Ralston as Stevens.
Yeah, and actually, I say Aunt Helene has got, I think, the line of the movie. And I remember they joked about this on Kim and Ket, but her line where she goes, "Brown-haired Neath, you still exist," was like the most perfect line. I love that.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
Yeah.
So here's the synopsis. Well, I'll read you the synopsis and I'll tell you my synopsis. Okay, a bride's wedding night takes a sinister turn when her eccentric new in-laws force her to take part in a terrifying game. So when this trailer came out, I was very intrigued because of course it involves gaming.
Right.
Had Samara Weaving, who I loved in The Babysitter, and it just had that vibe of kind of this quirky, dark comedy thing that I really, really liked. And I did not get a chance, unfortunately, to see it in the theater. So I was really excited when it just recently came out for rental. So when we start the movie, Samara Weaving, who plays Grace, is just about to get married to Alex Domas, played by Mark O'Brien, and she's marrying into the very wealthy, as you can tell by their multi-million-dollar mansion.
Oh, yeah.
Domas Gaming Empire, or as he says, I think it's Dominion.
Yes, they prefer Dominion, which is kind of a little bit of a foreshadowing, but yeah.
Yeah, so at any rate, so she's marrying into this very extremely wealthy family, and you get a sense right off the bat that there's some eccentricity, as you would expect from any wealthy family. And the plot kicks off when she's informed by Alex that their family plays a game at the stroke of midnight whenever a new member of the family is married in. So this could be anything from checkers to chess to go
or
fish.
Old Maid, apparently.
Old Maid, yeah. So any of these games, and how it's chosen is there is this box, and there's this backstory of how this box came into the possession of the Domas family.
Which let me ask you real quick: did that not seem to you almost like one of those like pre-shows at one of a theme park attraction? The way
really
he
did.
set that up, it was so. That is one of my favorite scenes. It's just so mesmerizing the way he tells that tale. He's like so well done. The way he just crafts this like cool backstory to the movie. It's very well done. I mean, there's so much to this. I mean, not to get into too much of the the whole thing with that. I'll let Tim continue, but like this scene is one of the, like, to me, one of the most perfectly crafted scenes in this movie.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And you know what it reminded me of, Brian, is the old Adventurers Club at Disney. At Downtown Disney. Did it not?
Yes, yep.
Yeah, for you guys that don't know, we're going off a little tangent here, but there used to be, so at Walt Disney World, there used to be the adult section, Downtown Disney, which had all your like little bars and nightclubs and stuff. And I went there a couple times. We went on our honeymoon. We went there one time before I was ever married, as about when I was a teenager. And, just fantastic because they had these like themed bars, and the most Disney-esque of all of them was called the Adventurers Club, and basically it was stylized as sort of like this was. It's like kind of a like you would think of an old British Explorers Club. You got animal heads on the walls and guns on the walls, and it had this air of like people that would socialize in this kind of club back in the like. Maybe, back in the, I don't know, 1800s or something. It kind of just had this vibe to it. And you had the people that worked there would actually walk around in character. So you would see, like, the socialite or the explorer. And you would see these guys, they'd come around and talk to you and stuff. It was really neat. And then they had this this show that would occur, like, every half hour or so. And you would have this bookshelf, like, swing into the secret room. And then you would go into this, like, theater or another room, and then they would have like almost like a comedy show, but it was it was mixed with other like intriguing, mysterious stuff. So it was kind of in a way, kind of a dark comedy type thing. And you never knew what kind of show you were going to get because they varied them and changed them around. So it was really, really, really neat. I remember when Livy and I went on our honeymoon, I got picked on relentlessly when I went in there because for some reason, I guess I was an easy target, but they like all the actors and stuff were just killing me.
I wish more places did that.
It's tell so you cool.
That interactive theater element is just, I mean, there's still some places that do it. There's like that, the name is escaping me, but there's the interactive theater thing in New York City, which we want to save it, Tim. Julie and I decided the next time you and Olivia come in, there's this really cool, I can't believe I'm forgetting the name, but I'll see if I can find it before the episode ends, but It's like it's one of these things where you go on multiple levels and you walk through and all these people are in character basically, and you basically get Sleep No More. That's what it's called. It's Sleep No More. And my brother Adam actually and my sister-in-law Hope did it. They told us, they're like, I can't believe you didn't do that. And so I wanted to do it when I looked it up. It's quite expensive. I think it's like about $150, but it looks so cool. But I'm like, no, you know what? I'm like, we need to wait until next time Tim and Olivia come in because this is something we need to do with them. Because the way they describe it is an interactive film noir Macbeth experience, basically. And it's a production company. It's in a 5-story 1930s hotel, and you basically walk from different floor to floor and experience it all. So that's all I really know about it. But from what I understand, it's really, really a cool experience. So I think we're gonna save that for next time you guys visit.
Oh, that sounds awesome. Yeah, I would love to do that. There's a place downtown called Tales, which is like a 1920s themed bar, which I've always wanted to go into. They don't have a dress code. I don't think they enforce a dress code or anything, but it's cool. It's like a
and that's in Wilmington?
Yeah, it's like a piano bar, but it's all 20s themed.
How did we miss that? I know, all I told Julie the other day, I'm like, I kind of miss Wilmington. I want to go back and like go through all the bars again. That was like that time when we came down for that was one of the best trips we ever had. It was just it was rushed in some way because it was such a tight weekend turnaround with so many events, but like I still felt like I got so much out of that town. Like I see why you and Kevin are just love that town so much because it's oh my god, I had the best time. I'm like dying to go back and like just walk. You just walk around and you feel like you absorb everything in there. And that ghost tour that we gotta reach out to that guy from the ghost tour too. So we need to get that on because set that up because that was a great. That'll be a great interview, and that was a fun experience itself. Just the bars there are just so cool, and the culture there. Oh my god, I love it.
Yeah. Well, I'm proud of my town. That's a damn rare thing
be.
These days.
Yes, it is. Which we still need to do that commentary. Along with Cody's request, Velocipaster.
Yeah. But, I want to do a Young Frankenstein commentary, too. Which would just be laughing through the whole movie.
Pretty much, yeah. That'll be it.
So anyway, to get back to the story. So this box is going to randomly choose the game that the family is going to play. And we get a hint at the very start of the movie. This is at the very beginning that of something that occurred 30 years prior where they played a game of hide and seek, a deadly game of hide and seek, I should say. And of course, what you know it, as chance would have it, poor Grace gets to choose the card and the little box spits it out. It's sort of like one of those fortune tell machines. They put a blank card in and then it spits out what you're going to play. And it is indeed hide and seek, which means this game is going to be deadly. And you can tell from from some of the conversations later on, this is something that very rarely ever happens.
Apparently it never happens according to like the first time. I guess that opening scene in the movie was the last time it happened,
which was 3 decades prior. So.
Right, much as and so it's like it's something that like it's almost one of those things like, oh, what kind of luck would it take to get? I mean, I assume it's. I mean, I don't know. This is just me probably putting this in. I don't know. They don't ever go into how many game choices there are, but in my head, I've just to rationalize it, it's a 1 in 52 chance because of the 52 cards. I mean, that's just what I assume. I mean, I could be way off. It could be like 10 choices, but the way they made it sound like it could be so many varied games that 52 sounds like a number that would work.
Yeah, so what kicks off now is basically a deadly game of hide and seek, which when I was watching this, Brian, this is so funny. I was watching The Most Dangerous Game, and this is a 1930s film.
Oh my
and
God!
Of course, based off the story you probably read in school of The Most Dangerous Game, in which there's a eccentric guy that lives on this island, and he hunts people for sport. And that's what the movie, of course, is about. And then I realized I was watching this movie. I was like, duh, Tim, this is an update of The Most Dangerous Game. That's basically what this movie is. It's hunting people. And,
I mean, they've done this. It's not. I mean, that core element has been done before in other films, in other horror films especially. But I think this movie does a good job of really updating it in a way that it still feels fresh, which is important, I think.
Yeah, and they do it in a way that there's just enough like whimsy and humor injected into the movie to make you believe it. It doesn't seem outlandish. Like, you're kind of lulled into actually believing this could happen. I remember when I first saw the trailer, that was one of the problems I had with it. I was like, that's a ridiculous premise. Like, why would that ever happen? But I love how they kind of, like you said, with that intro and talking about the box and everything, you kind of get lulled into how this could happen. And you're also kind of seeing it through Grace's eyes, of kind of naively coming into this family and realizing it along with her what's going on, which was really well done.
Yeah, and one of the things I think that they did so good is that, along to kind of piggyback on what you said, how like they make it believable, and they put just enough comedy and whimsy in it, and like, and just like outlandish situations. But one of the things they do well is they seem to always have you, or us in this case, the audience, right where they want you to be. And what I mean by that is, I think they do a great job of, you despising the characters they want you to despise, loving the characters they want you to love with very little effort. Very subtle. Like, within the first, I'd say, like 30 seconds of the movie, you all automatically, I mean, granted, this could be a little biased because I've already been a huge fan of Samara Weaving as an actress, but the Grace character, they have you within the first 30 seconds, she's awesome. You just have that. And it's a natural thing. And, it's like, and like just some of the, like, just like, what's the Emily character? Like, as soon as she comes in, you just know, okay, she is just a hot mess, basically, for lack of a better term. And she is going to provide you with tons of entertainment throughout. And she does. She delivers. Every scene she does, she's either doing something stupid or crazy, and it's just so entertaining. And even in her one, like, quote unquote serious segment, which I won't say, it ends it like that disrupts really quickly. So it's like, I think that they do I mean, I don't know if you give the credit. I mean, I guess you give credit to everyone. I mean, the directors, the cast, and the editor for just making this thing. You get just enough to get you where they want you to be at all times, and I think that's not that easy to do.
No, and it goes to show that you can tell the audience everything they need to know about a character with one line of dialogue.
Right.
And you have, a lot of these less skilled writers feel like they have to spell everything out, or they have to spend, 15 minutes of screen time trying to show you who somebody is. In a movie like this, it's important that the pace be snappy, and you don't need to know everything about each of these characters. Some characters are more important than others. And the ones that they can sketch out with a single line, they do. And the ones that they need to spend more time on, they do. But it's neat to watch it from. I watched this movie twice for the podcast.
Yeah, I think I've watched it 3 times since
Yeah, just the first time just to watch it. The second time I really was focusing on like the direction and that performances and the writing. I like to break down each component of a movie and kind of pay attention to that piece of it. And that's where where good writing comes in, where you can tell everything you need to know about a character from just little one-off lines of dialogue and stuff. I love when movies do that and don't hit you over the head with some. I mean, you could easily have him come in and go, start talking to Grace, and then she tells her entire backstory in dialogue, which would be getting the information across, but it's so boring and it's almost patronizing to the viewer. When instead that can come out naturally through her dialogue with other people.
Right, and it does. It's like you find her backstory through, like, I think 3 separate conversations. You get all you need to know about Grace. And you know, and the funny thing, another thing you said too, is with the way they, you know, the way they do that is this movie was a brisk 1 hour and 35 minutes, but yet it felt like you were getting almost close to 2 hours of content. Normally you're like, oh, it felt slow, but no, it didn't felt slow. It felt full, which is a major difference, you know. And for an hour and a half, you know, give or take film, to fill yourself with all that stuff, that's skill, because, you know, it's like, you know, it moves along constantly. There's not a dull spot in that movie.
Yeah.
And yet you still get a lot in it. You know, it's like you continuously get the backstory, and you find out more backstory throughout the whole film. And it's just, it's got a very interesting backstory, and it's just like, there's just a perfect mix. You know, like Tim and I have always said this, and we've said this since, like, I think day one of this podcast. I mean, if you're going to do a horror comedy, make sure it's balanced. And this, I consider one of the finest examples of a good horror comedy, where there's plenty of comedy in there, plenty of horror, some good gore, you got it all balanced, and yet you don't sacrifice either element of that, any of the elements of it at any time.
No, it's fantastic. I did want to talk about Samara Weaving's performance, though, because...
Oh my God, is she awesome.
She's Australian, which I had no clue. Yep. I had zero clue from her accent.
Well, I knew from her role on Smilf, because she had her natural accent in there.
Okay, and I didn't know that Margot Robbie is also Australian. No wonder they get mixed up all the time. But she has this. She has these little quirks of character that clue you in that she does not come from wealth or an upper class family, and that's made evident in the movie that he kind of married below his station. I don't believe in that, obviously.
Well, no, according to the
according to the family,
to the Domas,
family, he definitely could have done better. But I loved how, especially watching it the second time through, how you got all these little hints and just some of the like sarcasm she had, some of the little turns of phrases she had. I think there was even one instance that I was laughing because she snorted when she laughed. And it was so unbecoming of somebody that would come from like wealth and the eliteness that these other people showed. And I loved how she had these little character quirks that clued you in that she was kind of out of her element. Yeah. That was really cool.
And you know what was great? They continued it. Like, they didn't like give it to you in a couple of scenes and then forget about it. It was everyone, in the way she stood, the way she held herself, the way she walked, the way she would while the whole family is taking this whole game thing seriously, she's cracking jokes.
Right.
And, you know, or the fact one of the biggest sequences has to be, I mean, this is and I'm sorry, I apologize if this gives away an important plot, but one of the most iconic sequences, and it's on the frickin' movie poster, so she is standing there looking at herself in the mirror in this really fancy, which you can only imagine is an extremely expensive wedding dress in like high top kid sneakers. Yeah. You know, I mean, it's the cost, it's her outfit in the movie. The fact that those are the sneakers she has, and that's the sneakers she brought.
Right.
That says, you know, right there, it's like she wasn't like, you know, I mean, and I'm not trying to I'm not trying to, criticize upper class or anything. I'm just trying to, most of the time you see in movies, it's more the way the movie portrayal of it anyway is not in reality. The movie portrayal would be that literally she would come in a fancy outfit, arrive in a fancy outfit, leave in a fancy outfit, and during the movie wear a fancy outfit. But they flat out tell you, no, she is they later on you find out in a line that she was an orphan. So she basically she basically shows up in whatever clothes she came in. I mean, the only remnant of it obviously is her sneakers, but like she didn't come in some fancy I'm going to travel outfit, and like one of the lines she says with the when he says the music room, the guy's like, oh yeah, meet us in the music room, and she goes, oh, that's a perfectly normal room to have in a house. Just her delivery of it is like she's like totally mocking the the rich family aspect that is so stereotyped, and it's not always a real stereotype. It's a movie stereotype she flat out mocks, and that's what's so great about it. And I think she is so good at just, like you said, her performance of it sells it so well that it's like, I mean, it's like whoever is the casting director on this and put her in this should win an Academy Award just for that, if there's such a thing. I mean, she's so good.
Yeah, and that carries throughout the rest of the movie. I won't give anything away, but she really has a chance to stretch her acting chops in this film. And,
oh my god,
she's phenomenal. She's definitely the highlight of this movie.
Yeah, and I put a quote down. I don't know if you saw in the discussion points, and this is a statement that I will publicly say. I will say anytime anyone asks, I say the future in horror is in good hands with actors such as Samara Weaving leading the way. If she is the future kind of actress or actress that you're going to see in horror films, then you cannot be excited if you're a horror fan. You have to be excited for this.
Yeah, which I think she's probably going to go well beyond horror.
Oh yeah,
from this film.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to like pinhole her into like just a horror career. She just happens to be so good at it.
Yeah.
But she definitely has the ability to be in any kind of movie. I don't want to sell her short that she has to be in one genre because she's just that good. Because she was great in Smilf, and I know she kind of left unceremoniously. There was some negative things about that film leading to that show being canceled. But I mean, she's just really good in general, whatever she does. So
yeah. There are tons of foreshadowing moments in this movie. I don't think I'm going to go into them because I want to keep this as spoiler-free as possible.
I realized that when I put that there, I'm like, yeah, this is kind of going to be spoiler. Just kind of keep it, like, literally, they do. When you watch the movie, just remember that statement that Tim just said, because there are so many great foreshadowing moments, and they're I know, of course, foreshadowing in its definition is kind of intentional, but in this I think they almost over foreshadow on purpose as a device, and it works brilliantly.
Yeah, another good sign of a well-written movie, I think. There's a lot of great foreshadowing. Fantastic soundtrack and score as well, which we mentioned.
Yeah, by the way, I have that. I downloaded the hide and seek song.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
I love that song.
When they start hide and seek, they play this old record that has this old fashioned hide and seek song. It's just absolutely wonderful. I love that.
Yeah, and I love the version of the Love Me Tender that's on the soundtrack too. That I downloaded that also. Yeah,
it has some great soundtrack moments. So yeah, definitely seek out the soundtrack if you want a good horror movie score. Which is
it's got that cool violin-y stuff,
Yeah, and it's not like. Some horror scores are great, but they're not listenable. I mean, you're not going to sit there and put those on. They're too dreary, and this one is just a lot of fun. So I think this would be a really good one to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's go through some of the trivia here, Brian, since we can't discuss too much more about the plot. Family.
I realize as I'm looking at the trivia, I made a mistake. They weren't Keds. I guess they were Chuck Taylors. But
yeah, and there's some of these.
What do I know about fashion?
I won't go through all the trivia because there are some that do contain some plot spoilers, so I'll skip those. But the Domas family is Domas in Spanish is a conjugation of the verb domar, which means to tame or to control. So there we get the tie-in with the family name. The Domas Family Empire of Board Games is, of course, based on now-defunct game manufacturers Milton Bradley and Parker Brothers, which are basically huge gaming empires at one time.
Yeah. By the way, that one game, because that guy LaBelle, the one that was that comes into the plot, they had that one game, LaBelle's Gambit. Whatever that game is, it just makes me want to play it. I don't know.
Oh man, all those games. When I was looking, I actually paused the movie when she first walks into the gaming room.
Of course you did, Tim.
And I could see all the board games. I was like, oh, that one looks cool. That one looks cool.
I know. Tim was secretly adding it to his virtual collection.
Yeah, exactly. There are some masks used in the prologue, so I'm not giving them too much away there because it's in the first 5 minutes of the movie. And they are reminiscent of a Twilight. They are reminiscent of a Twilight Zone episode, Brian, called "The Mask" from 1964, where they are worn by members of a wealthy family. So
which, of course, being a fan of the Twilight Zones, I got that reference instantly. I was like, oh my god, that's just like that episode of the Twilight Zone.
All right, yeah. I'm skipping some of these because these are spoilery.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I'm not going to read any of those.
What stinks, that Emily one is really good.
Yeah.
That
We'll
stinks.
say this. Emily is best known for Winona Earp as the gunslinger with the ability to eliminate revenants from hell. That's her best known role.
She was one of my favorite characters, and I know she was meant to be. Like,
Yeah.
you were supposed to, like, totally enjoy her character, and I think she oh my god, I'm gonna mess this up. Melanie Scrofano. She nailed that character. She was awesome.
Yeah. So, guys, go out and this one just came out for rent, or hit Redbox or Vudu or whatever, or just buy the Blu-ray. It's a fantastic movie. It's a lot of fun. If you enjoy horror comedies, this is definitely one of the best released last year, and one of the best I've seen in the last few years in terms of like horror comedy. So I would highly recommend it. As I usually say, go grab it. It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
And just everything about it is great. The whole atmosphere of the house, and just the family, and just like they just I don't know, something about it is like, I mean no film is perfect, but it's like it's one of those ones that, like, where it's just a whole bunch of perfect elements put together, I'll say.
Yeah. It's fantastic. I actually enjoyed it more the second time, even.
Yeah, same here. I think I was like, each time I watch it, it's one of those ones that every time you watch it, you enjoy it more, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right, so Brian, you had a fantastic... Man, you are killing it with the beer pairings.
Yeah, wait till you see what I got coming up. The next 2 episodes we have, I think I even top these.
Wow.
I will say I'm self-recognition. I even said it to Julie the other day. I'm like, I'm killing it with these beer pairings. I actually said that as exact words aloud the other day, because I kind of like set up our next 2 episodes, and I already put the beer pairings, and I'm like, damn, I'm getting good with this. But so what Tim was referring to is this one is the Hide and Seek Hefeweizen from Public House Brewing Company in St. James, Missouri. And actually, we've had some of these public houses thanks to our good buddy Nathan, or as you might know him as Slater from RTO, who sent Julie a great Secret Santa gift of a whole bunch of beers, and one of these was in there. So anyway, this one is it's a light beer in terms of ABV, which is only 4.9%. So here's a description of it. It says, "At Public House, we take our Hefeweizen seriously." Which is kind of a little different than the movie we're discussing. But it says, not only do we use traditional ingredients, but our brewers use the traditional multi-step infusion mash method, which is basically adding time and toil to the brew day. It says, which gives the beer the appropriate body without cloying sweetness. Pale, spicy, and fruity, our Hefeweizen is medium-bodied with a fluffy, creamy fullness that comes directly from the wheat. Subtle flavors and aromas of banana, clove, and even bubblegum, all naturally imparted by the yeast, are balanced by slightly tart and citrusy noble hops. Do we really need to keep going here? If you don't want one by now, you might want to check your pulse. And so I added this. So the malts they use are white wheat, Pilsen, and Munich, and the hops are Magnum. So, so that sounds like actually I'm definitely, Tim and I, we've discussed it. We're definitely more IPA people, and we do like a good stout every now and then, but this Hefeweizen actually sounds quite delicious.
Yeah, I actually enjoy a good Hefeweizen every now and again, just for something, light and refreshing and good.
Yeah.
I've had a few that I've really liked, so that one sounds really good. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I would definitely, this is definitely one I would try, for sure.
All right, guys, so let's get to our triple threat from last week. We were looking for a director. This one was a little tricky. Clue number 1, out of my 6 director credits, all but one shared the same character. That character was Art the Clown. We were, of course, speaking about Damien Leone. Out of Damien's 6 director's credits, Art the Clown appeared in The Ninth Circle, which was a short, Terrifier, which was a short, All Hallows Eve, Terrifier the feature, Terrifier 2, which is currently filming, but he did not appear in the 2015 feature Frankenstein vs. the Mummy.
And why not, I may ask.
I know.
I think Art would have had a perfect role as Renfield. But,
clue number 2, you could say I definitely take a hands-on...
Oh, wait, no, Renfield. He wouldn't be... Not Renfield. What's him?
Igor.
Igor. Thank you. Sorry. Igor. Whatever. Yeah. I'm horrible.
He's Igor in Young Frankenstein.
That's true. He's Igor in Young Frankenstein. Yeah.
Clue number 2, you could say I definitely take a hands-on approach to filmmaking. Damien not only directs, but does a lot of the special and makeup effects on all of his films. And clue number 3, I actually have one official acting credit to my name. He played the demon in the first short film he directed, The Ninth Circle.
I gotta get a hold of that. I want to see him acting chops.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
Because he was really cool when we were hanging out with him, and I'd love to see his acting ability, I think. I need to see that.
All right, so this week we are looking for an actor or actress. This is a good one. I like this one. Clue number 1. I started acting in 1963, and I'm still acting today. Clue number 2. In my film roles, I have gone against robot henchmen, aliens, and vengeful spirits. And clue number 3, I often play police officers. That's a big clue.
Yeah, and I think this one is like the perfect middle of the road.
This is a very
level.
well balanced one. I like this one.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? I think we should start maybe coming up with, starting with it, maybe like ranking them on like a scale of 1 to 10 of difficulties.
Yeah.
Like maybe that's an added bonus one. I'd say this one was to be like a 6 to a 7. I think.
Yeah, it's gettable. It's definitely gettable. It's not crazy, yeah. But I think it's like the perfect. This is right in the sweet spot, I think.
Right. And I've actually done a bunch. I actually spent a couple of hours this past weekend just putting a bank of these, which is what I intended to do all along. It's just, life gets in the way. So I did a bunch of these, and so I tried to balance them out with a bunch of different topics, of course, like some fictional characters thrown in there. And I also tried to just give a good like skill level. Like I tried to give throw a couple of difficulty ones in there, but also a couple of gettable ones in there for all different horror fans. Because, some people just are new to the genre, and they, it's not fair to always make these really difficult ones.
Yeah. All right, so let's get to our Zabmondo question of the week.
Yes. Let me see. And actually, David was it Johnny or David? I can't remember. Someone pointed out that we may have repeated last week's, but I don't know. I said I think we just had a multiple eyeball one, I think is what it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, then again, it's like we could have. We really need to start tracking this, but maybe we'll get our intern Cody.
Yeah.
Cody, I would say if you're listening, but I know you are.
Of course,
you're
she's
awesome
listening.
With our listening. You're our best listener ever. So we need you to start fact checking us here. We need to know if we did repeat that or not. But okay, let me see. Okay, here's a good one for you, and it does not involve eating anything disgusting, Tim.
Okay.
But this may apply to kind of your current situation since you'll be moving into a nice new house shortly.
Okay.
Okay. It says, would you rather have a sleepwalking problem that causes you to wander the streets at night, or causes you to get up at night and pee all over your furniture?
What?
That's the one.
I would wander the streets before I would pee on my furniture.
Right, because I've actually had nightmares that I've peed on things that shouldn't have been peed on. So I can tell you that. I think I would 100% choose yours too. Now, granted, there are some pitfalls. Where are you wandering in the streets? It's like you have a nice neighborhood. I've been in Tim's neighborhood. Yeah. Very nice, polite. I actually met one of your neighbors, that guy that was walking over there. Yeah. So, Tim, you could walk to, and if you actually make it out to the main road, you could stumble down to a very nice supermarket. It's right down the road. So I think Tim's area would be good. Me, I don't know so much. I could end up at the Amityville Horror House if I walk far enough.
I would be.
So I don't know if mine would be so good, but
I would hope that you there's always a chance you get run over by a car, right?
That is true. But if at that point, now granted it's a sleepwalking, so probably the middle of the night, so most people are, driving. Yeah. It'd be less cars on the road.
I will have to say, something kind of sounds fun about that, like wandering the streets in the middle of the night kind of sounds like an adventure.
It does, right?
Because one of the things I love, Brian, I'm a runner. I like to run.
Yes.
I run at least 3 days a week. The best thing, like, running sucks. Like, anybody, even runners will tell you running sucks. Like, nobody likes the actual physical drain of running. But the thing I do love is the solitude. I love just running out. Like, I run 3 miles. I'll go 1.5 miles away from my house, and it's just me and the sidewalk, and obviously cars driving by, that kind of thing. But you're by yourself and with nothing but your thoughts, and there's something so peaceful about it. You're not staring at a phone. There's no electronics. You're just kind of out there with nature and stuff. I really, really like that. It's such a stress relief. And
so you don't even put like your AirPods in and jog?
I do. I use my AirPods and stuff. But
okay.
For the most part, I'm just kind of alone with my thoughts, and it's a nice, like, it's almost like a meditation kind of thing. It's such a nice break, and I always feel better when I come back. I feel like you feel like you've been on like a mini vacation, and that's kind of what when I hear about sleepwalking in the middle of the night, I'm thinking, I don't know, there's something kind of refreshing getting out into the cold night air
in your pajamas.
in my pajamas. Well,
I guess it's worse for people that like sleep in like less than pajamas.
Yeah,
I guess might be a little bit risky. And you know, it's like me, who's someone who like while I'm perfectly wide awake has a chance to stumble at any moment. I probably need to learn the walking skill first before I give into a sleepwalking thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think I'd agree with you in there. I mean, and technically right now our apartment complex, they've expanded, so now there's like 8 full buildings, so there's a big wide area I could probably wander around in, like in the comfort of my own like apartment complex, and I'd probably be okay. So, and actually that would require me actually finding my way out of the building. I could. I mean, for all I know, I could just go up 4 flights of stairs and end up never leaving.
Or you could just jump off the balcony when you got up there. I don't know.
I don't think I can get out. I don't think I can get out of the balcony. That's a good thing. I think it's pretty encompassed into the building, so I think I'd be okay. But yeah, no, I think I think that was an easy one, in fact, to agree. But I will give you 2 facts now, based on how Zamando gives those little facts at the bottom here, and it says, while sleepwalking, an 11-year-old Illinois boy left his home, hopped a train, and was later found walking 100 miles from home.
Oh, God.
So there goes Tim's theory of solitude. I mean, this kid got on a train. What I want to know is how he got on the train without a ticket.
It was an adventure, though. You have to admit, it was an adventure.
Oh, that's an adventure, right? Yeah, I mean, but 100 miles from home, that's crazy.
God.
To me, okay, now, just to give you a comparison, Tim. Now, you remember where I used to live, right? In East Meadow, when you visited.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe it was like 32 miles from there is Manhattan. This guy did 3 times that. He'd be in Jersey, he'd be visiting Steve Cohen and then some. So that's how far that is, just to give you some distance reality there. Okay, and the other one is, here's the one about the pee. So it says,
oh boy.
Restoration experts discovered that discoloration near the base of the Statue of Liberty was caused by its patina being worn away from laborers peeing from the top of the statue.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well.
So look at that.
Yeah.
Poor Miss Liberty there got peed on, and that explains a lot. Okay.
All right. So Brian, are we gonna unveil what our movie is for next week?
You know what? Why not? It kind of was one of those things where we just, I guess, having our fun by being secretive. But I figure it might be a good thing, too, because then we can give our listeners a chance to watch the movie, and then we don't have to maybe worry so much about, kind of limit the spoiling aspect.
Yeah. All right. So, and I'm very excited about this one. So next week we will be doing The Lighthouse, which came out last year. Was it this year? Yeah, that was last year, right?
Yeah, I think it was right at the end of the year.
Right at the end, yeah. With, of course, Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson. We talked about it briefly, I know, an episode or so back when I mentioned I had seen it. I'm definitely going to watch it again because this is one that's probably going to reward repeated viewings. Of course, the great Robert Eggers, who did The Witch. It's another
one of Tim and I favorite.
Yeah.
But no Black Phillip appears in this, I understand, right?
No.
He's not in there?
No, you shall not live deliciously in this one. So
darn it.
Again, based on a true story, this is a really interesting one to talk about. So you guys are definitely not going to want to miss next episode. And Brian, just a teaser, we've got some great interviews lined up as well. In the coming months, so definitely.
Yeah, I don't want to give the big one away because
we can't.
But I will hint that it's one that Tim and I are absolutely ecstatic about. I never thought we'd get it, just because it was something that I don't know. It just, I guess it wasn't on our radar supposedly. But let's just say, I still don't believe it. I don't want to even jinx it until I make sure it happens. But basically, it's all lined up. Let's say that.
All right.
Yes.
So, guys, we will see you back here next week. Remember, if somebody asks you to choose a game, do not choose hide and seek.
Yes, and if you are the brown-haired niece, continue to exist, though.